this video we are going to talk about octaves. Alright, we're going to talk about the octave itself and what that is. Okay, so in order to explain what the octave is, we are going to tell a little story. Alright, this is a story that takes place thousands of years ago with a very smart individual named Pythagoras. Now, many of you know Pythagoras from your math classes. Pythagoras was a mathematician, a philosopher, and also a musician. One day, Pythagoras was walking around his hometown and he heard a blacksmith banging an anvil. So he listened to the sound and he thought about it. Later on, he heard another blacksmith banging a smaller anvil, and it was making a different sound. And he was very intrigued. So he goes home and he decides that he's going to try an experiment. So he takes a string and he ties it between 2 points, and he plucks that string, and it makes a sound. Then he stops the string halfway and he plucks just half of the string, and it makes a different sound. And this is where Pythagoras discovers the octave. So what is an octave? Or how did those two sounds change? Well, when he plucked the string halfway as opposed to the entire string, he discovered that that sound, or what was happening with the vibrations, or we would say the frequency, is that the frequency of vibrations was doubling. Right? So he doubled the frequency. So how does that work for us? What does that mean for us as musicians? Well, we hear these sounds all the time, right? And this is the octave. So let's say, for instance, that when Pythagoras struck the string, or when he plucked the string, he heard this sound. Now let's say he holds the string halfway, he stops it halfway and plucks half of the string. He most likely would have heard this sound. So here's the first sound, here's the second sound. So as you can see, those two sounds sound very familiar. All right, they're very related, okay? In music, we would say those two notes that I just played both have the same name, all right? But one has a higher frequency, one is a higher pitch, all right? For those of you who have taken choir or have choir experience, sometimes you might have had a choir director who would say, let's sing this note. But the males or the boys would have sang a lower, and the girls would have sang higher. They're both singing the same note, but those notes are an octave apart. Girls typically have higher voices, so it would have been more comfortable for them to sing at the higher octave, whereas boys would have sang at the lower octave. Okay, why don't we take a look at the keyboard to see what this looks like on the piano. Okay, so here we are zoomed in on the piano, so we can take a look at what the octave looks like here. Now, here's a sort of great way to look or to get an understanding of how Western music works. So even if you're not a pianist, this is why piano is so important, because here we can clearly see how our system of Western music works. So if you look at the keyboard, and I know some of you might be learning piano or might have some piano experience, you'll know that we see that this pattern keeps repeating itself over and over again. So we have this group of 2 black notes and group of 3, then 2, then 3, then 2, then 3, then 2, then 3. So it just keeps repeating itself over and over again. And we said before that the letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G just keep repeating itself over and over again. Well, when we just keep repeating those letters over again, we are sort of going up. We're getting higher pitches. If we say them backwards, then we get lower pitches, okay? But when we repeat ourselves, then we're moving into a new octave, all right? So what I played before was an A, all right? And then I played the same A, just higher, all right? Now, I'm going to switch to middle C since people are very, very familiar with middle C. So here's middle C, and here's the higher C. As you can see, it's in the same place. And I can do many different C's in many different octaves. Or lower. Sorry. There we go. So all of those are C's. They're just in different octaves, going higher or lower. Okay? So now this octave is divided differently. Okay? In Western music, we divide the octave into 12 half steps. Right? There's 12 half steps. In different cultures, the octave can be divided into many different types of steps. It could be 22 steps, could be 5 steps. So while people talk about the universality of music and how music is so universal, one thing is for sure, the octave might be universal, but how we divide that octave is different from culture to culture. So here you can see a clear whole step, all right, when we go from this C to this D. Right? If I go up C to D, that's up a whole step. If I go from D to C, it's down a whole step. Notice the black note that's in between? Well, that is the half step. I can go, there's a half step up, another half step up, I get my whole step up. Alright, so a whole step is obviously 2 half steps. Okay? And then if I were to play all the notes between C and C, that would be known as a chromatic scale. And there's all 12 half steps. Alright guys, let me show you a helpful hint on how to find an octave on a piano. So let's say you go to the piano, you need to find the octave. That's pretty easy. So all you need to do is look at the black keys. So by now, some of you have studied piano, you should notice that it pretty much repeats. So you could see, for instance, here's 3, here's 2, here's 3, here's 2, and it pretty much continues that way up and down. So if you find your note in relation to these black notes, so for instance, if you start with this note, which is, of course, a C, you'll notice that the octave is in the same place. Here's the 2 black notes, and here's the C. So, C, C. So, there's your octave. If you choose the note between the 2 black notes, which is D, same thing over here. So there is the octave. And I can play a scale at the octave. So that's how you find the octave on the piano very quickly. Here's another helpful hint. So if you find an octave between 2 notes in the treble clef, so we know that these 2 notes are an octave, then you are also going to find the same relationship in bass clef, even though these are 2 totally different notes. So this is one note in treble clef, which is an E, and this is another note in G, in bass clef, which is a G. All right. But if it's an octave apart here, it'll be an octave apart here. But just make sure that you watch your clef and know that they are 2 different notes. Okay, now it's time for the quick check. All right, so I have here a note, and I want you to tell me what is an octave above this note. Okay, so pause the video, see if you can figure it out with your staff paper, and once you have the answer, unpause. Go for it. Okay, did you figure it out? All right, if you unpause, you either figure it out or you need help with it. So that's what we'll do, okay? So first things first, you gotta figure out what this note is. So we're in bass clef. It's a space note. That's all cows eat grass. Okay, that's right, all cows, we know that it's a C, all right? So we need to find a C that's higher. Let's try the line notes. Good boys do fine always. Oh, well, the top line we know is an A, but that is not an octave. We need a C. We can use our stepwise motion. A, B would be on the space, and then C. Our stepwise motion got us to the C. It's on the ledger line there. Okay? So this is also a C, thus creating an octave. Did you get the quick check? If not, try again. All right, and hopefully this helps. The explanation helps. But if you did it, nice job.